Hello everybody, welcome to the Big Home Ed Conversations. You are here as always with myself, Kelly Rigg. I'm a home ed mum of two and founder of Off-Roading Motherhood, and my fellow co-host, Ashley Vanerio, who is a home ed mum of three and an ex-primary teacher. Now, we started this podcast wanting to bring you conversations that went beyond the myths. We don't want to talk about the same old hang-ups and fears that we're all sick of talking about. We know the truth. We know that home education is awesome. And we wanted to make sure that you were talking about things that really mattered to you and actually helped you to overcome some of the real shifts and mindset changes that we need to go through, embracing new ways of thinking, new ways of approaching life, and starting to show your home ed journey a little bit of love, basically. Today, we have invited on Luna. She is a worldschooler and someone who is traveling the world with her husband, her three children, just doing the most incredible things. And ultimately, we wanted to have a conversation with someone who's really living it, because I personally am really seriously considering worldschooling. And it's something which I think that, much like home education, there's so many preconceived fears of what the kind of the myths and the struggles might be. So we basically have interviewed her, we've had a really great chat with her, and we're essentially bringing you a conversation that is going to really, really touch on how you're going to make an income as you go along, what actually really matters as you're traveling, how to ensure that you stay regulated as a family, to make sure that everybody is kind of meeting their needs, that you're not constantly dysregulating the whole kind of apple cart with traveling, and sort of getting off the beaten track, making that not too scary, really kind of overcoming some of those kind of real, like early level fears that I'm currently having as I'm doing my research and thinking about worldschooling. And also just to kind of really hear the beauty of some of the experiences her kids have had, just being able to live that kind of really lovely, kind of radical, unschooly life that's based around just really experiencing the world that we are in. And also kind of the real benefit that can have to a child's education and ours too, in terms of just how it can really benefit us as people, and where that can actually take us. So really hope you enjoy this conversation, and just make sure you are dropping a line to us, letting us know if you've got any follow-up questions, because I know that Luna will be more than happy to have a further chat with us if you've got any other questions you want to ask her. So with no further ado, let's jump in. Hello, Luna. We are so excited to chat to you today, because I know that you are off on an incredible adventure with your kids and your husband, obviously, as well. Bless him. So he's involved. And we thought we obviously wanted to have Luna on today to talk to you guys about her incredible adventure, but also to help you guys to understand that actually this is a reality, that this actually happens and people are doing it. And actually it's not as difficult to access as maybe we all might think. And so I know that, like, I, for example, have been dying to world school for years. It's 100% on my bucket list to just run away and to go and explore the world. But how did you even get to the point of wanting to start doing something like this, Luna? Like, where did that even start, that conversation?
I mean, it's kind of been a bit of a journey, but like we were chatting about before we started recording, ever since we started our family 7 years ago, like, we very soon realised that society's norm when it came to family life, where you essentially spend the littlest time with the ones that matter the most to you, right? Because we're all meant to split up at the start of the day and go to care or our jobs and all of that sort of thing. We were just like, that's not for us. Like, there has to be another way. Like, it's not fair that my husband has to go back to work 2 weeks after, our son was born. And he was just missing so much of his first year of life. And I was just like, I have to find a way to, bring him, like, for us to be together, but still obviously earn an income to, to live, and pay the bills and put food on the table and all of that sort of thing. So yeah, we just started thinking creatively, and we pursued, some online income streams, and we were renting a unit, and we ended up absolutely selling everything and buying a really cheap bus, fitting it out ourselves, and then we moved into that, and all we had to pay for was, and back then petrol was a lot, or fuel, I don't know what you guys call it over there, petrol or fuel was a lot cheaper. This was in like 2019, 2020. So we were just paying like petrol, food, insurance on our bus, and like our phone credit. And like we minimized to just spending money on that. And we were like, wow, we had so much freedom. And we literally traveled around Australia for 2 years, only and growing our businesses. I had another baby in that time, so we were a newborn and a toddler in the bus, and we just realized
in a bus traveling around during COVID,
yeah,
honestly.
exactly, during COVID, newborn, growing a business, doing all the things. I look back on that time and I'm like, that was so wild. Like, what were we thinking?
If you managed it then, you can manage anything. I'm not entirely sure. There's no challenge you can't cover.
Exactly. We threw ourselves in the deep end, and we were like, well, if we can do this, we can do anything. So we got a taste of traveling then, and we just got a taste of like how free it feels to not need much, and like to just have the absolute basics when it comes to possessions, and like, the basics when it comes to bills. And, we were able to free camp for like that whole 2 years. I think we paid to stay in a caravan park, maybe 20 nights out of the 2 years. So, yeah, it was like, and we're spending all of our time in nature. We were waking up with the sun, going to bed at sunset. It was just a really beautiful life. And there's definitely challenges in bus life. Like it's not all like sunsets and beaches and that sort of thing. But yeah, it just gave it a taste of like that freedom lifestyle. And then our kind of idea traveling around was like, we really wanted to find home and land to kind of go off grid and like grow as much of our own food as we could and all of that sort of thing. So we were looking for that, like somewhere affordable while we were traveling around Australia. And because we we're growing our business and our expenses weren't much, we're saving for a deposit. And we found a place, and we like sold our bus to put towards the house deposit, and we bought 40 acres, a house. And we really, at that time, we did that because of everything that was going on in the world. Like you said, it was COVID during those years, and we were like, we might not even be able to travel overseas again. Like this is the option for us right now. Like we just need to ground down and find a base for our family, and learn all how to pickle our own food, like do all the homesteading stuff. Like we're really ready to do that. And then we soon realized like that's hard to do when you've got young kids. And then I got pregnant pretty much as soon as we bought the house and land. So I was pregnant, and then we had another newborn, and so we had 3 super young kids, and then we had 67 projects going on our land. Still growing our businesses and stuff. And I was like, wow, and also when you get a house, we fell into the same trap. Again, we got all the stuff in the house, and we're suddenly going from living so simply in a bus, we're suddenly surrounded by stuff in a house, and and then all the other bills that come along with owning a house. And we kind of felt again a bit stale and stuck. And, interest rates rising, cost of living going up. We were just like, I remember saying to Ben one day, I was like, you know what, we could be traveling Asia and spending less, than what we are right now, and spending more time together rather than cleaning a house and working on all these projects that are half finished and all of that sort of thing. I was like, while the kids are still young, why not? We have built those income streams that are location independent. Why not go and travel while the kids are young? What a beautiful gift to give them. And we had decided at that time that we weren't going to send these kids to school. So, we were like, Worldschooling would be so epic. I was born in Papua New Guinea, and we left when I was 3, and I also went back there for 2 years to live when I was 11 and 12. And my family, we so middle, what's the word? Middle class. We weren't rich, and most of our stuff was secondhand, but my parents did save money towards travels because they really saw the investment in us learning about the world. And the memories and experiencing different cultures. And I personally know how much that impacted me and just energetically imprinted me as a kid and my perspective of the world. And I was like, I want to give that to my kids.
It's so inspiring. I think early memories of traveling for me as well. My mum and dad didn't have any money for travel until we were sort of teenagers, really. And my dad happened to do a website for someone back when doing websites was this really early thing. And he got 10 grand for doing it. And he was like, we're going to Australia. And it's actually the
Oh,
first place I
wow.
ever went abroad, going from the UK, was going to Perth in Australia, went to visit family. So we stayed with them for 2 weeks, and it's a heck of a long way to go for 2 weeks. But literally we spent the whole time being like, wow, like this is the most incredible things. Like I got to see the jellyfish in the river and ride on a camel, and saw, I think it was a possum or something, ran across a pathway in front of us and jumped off the side. It's just the most incredible things. Kangaroos right at the back window, and you open the curtains in the morning. Like my great uncle or whatever he was giving me a slice of bread and being like, come out and feed the kangaroos, having a bit of a laugh with me, and watching me scream and run back in as they came barreling towards me. Like just awful man. But it was just the most, I mean, I'd say the memories I've got so many. It's such a rich combination of memories for me from a time in my life. I think I was 10. So like there's like, do I remember much of my weeks at school? No. Do I remember much of my day-to-day life? No. Do I remember that? Yes, I do. Like, and actually all of those experiences, that's socializing with different people, meeting new cultures, seeing different things, learning about the tribal kind of side of things, like seeing the Aboriginal art, trying the food. I remember all of it. I remember all the different like flavors of Fanta. Like literally there's so much that I remember from that time. And actually, if you think about how that can then impact learning, like it's a no-brainer to me. Like, yes, I guess, I mean, there's a question I have in that we'll kind of get to, I guess, in a little while, but after a while when you're traveling a lot, like whether or not that starts to dull and you don't necessarily always get that impact. But I think it's, but yeah, I can't imagine it does. I just think just like there must always be just something new and exciting and interesting and stories to be told from different places you've been, that it must just create new stocks of memories for you.
Yeah, and just like, I mean, like you were saying, like I think back to like my childhood and so many of the memories that stand out. Not necessarily like we didn't go, I only went on like one big overseas trip with my parents, but you know, even just the camping trips, like that's what you remember. Like, you know, the times where you're just like out of your regular routine in a new environment and just like seeing all these new cool things and everything so like exciting and different, and like you just like soak it all up, and that's what like imprints on you as a kid is like, oh, how cool was that, because it was so different to your everyday norm. But of course, like when you're traveling to so many different countries, it yeah, there's just, I think the most beautiful thing I've seen with my kids is just them noticing like all the different ways of living and being in the world, because we were in a beautiful community back in Australia and there was lots of like-minded families who had a beautiful homeschooling community, but it wasn't very diverse, you know, it was very white. And we had a work trip to Fiji that I took the kids along on one time, and I did notice, like, you know, there was that, you know, they hadn't been around dark-skinned people before and they were a bit wary of them and things. And I was like, I don't want my kids to be like that. And I can understand why they are, because I have kept them sheltered. And I want them to see all the different types of people in the world and all the ways that they live and all the things that they eat and, you know, all the religions that they have, and just know that, like, you know, essentially we're all the same. We just choose these different ways of living and being, and just like, yeah, just giving them that like full cultural understanding of like how big and diverse this world is.
It gives them such permission too, right, to carve their own path, to decide what they believe in. My son at the moment, for example, he's been listening to the Percy Jackson books, and he's now decided that he believes in the Greek gods and they are now his gods. And it amuses me so much. We're not religious people, so apologies if that's offensive to anybody who's listening. But we don't tend to follow a specific religion. But he has now decided that the Greek mythology, kind of like all the Thor and Zeus and that, are now his gods, and he's going to worship them. And I laugh because it's just adorable. Like, he's talking about them all the time. He knows so much about them now. And he will literally just say like, oh, my Thor, and stuff like that. It's just so funny. And I just like, it's just adorable. And I just think, I wonder, like, as he experiences other cultures and he gets into different stories and like digests different information as he goes around the world with us, that hopefully he will start to actually see all these amazing different religions and get so curious about them. Like, he's clearly shown such curiosity in that kind of the mythology that goes into the stories, and we've been talking about how they all connect, and how actually a lot of religions have quite similar stories, or stories that have been poached from one religion get drawn into another, and all the rest of it. It's really fascinating, and I think it really helps them to get an understanding of human beings as a creature, and why we are so different to quite a lot of other creatures on this planet is because we have this kind of philosophical desire, and that's really, really interesting. But I think also, like, the animals and the plants and the deserts and the ice and the mountains and the rainforest, like, there's so much to take in from those different environments, and to, like, the skills you need to be in those environments, the types of tools you might need to use, the sorts of stuff you'll need to pack and bring with you, the whatever. I mean, this must take such planning. I mean, I wonder sometimes, like, when you are traveling around, because you said you do it quite slowly, don't you? You tend to go to a place and stay there for quite a while. Do you find that is one of the ways that you kind of overcome that kind of constant feeling? Like, I think if you're doing it quite fast, you'd spend an awful lot of time having to plan ahead, think ahead, thinking about all of the possible things that you could do in that place, really make the most of the time that you're there. I feel like it would put quite a lot of pressure on it.
Yeah, we definitely, like, when we decided to do this, I was like, it has to be a lifestyle, and for it to be a lifestyle, you know, it needs to be able to, like, our nervous systems need to stay regulated. And of course, you know, travel days and stuff with kids are super dysregulating, like arriving in a completely new culture, and, you know, whether there's, you know, time changes and all of that thing, it is dysregulating. So we try and minimize those travel days as much as possible, and, like, really, like, go to countries that are close by to the one we've just been in, so we're not having, like, massive time differences. And also, you know, just be wary that it is going to take a couple of days to settle in. And what else was I going to say on that? And then choose, like, maybe 2 to 3 places in whatever country we're going in to just base in, rather than being like, we've got to tick off all these sites because we're going to this country, we have to tick off all these major sites, because then you just end up not enjoying it. And, like, then it's so dysregulating, and the kids just get, you know, extra wild, and it's like no one's having fun. It's like, what's the point? And I think a lot of travel is like that, because people are like, well, if I'm going to go to a country, I've got to tick off all the things, when really, like, we're very much about is, like, how do you want to feel while you're traveling? Like, what cultural experiences matter to you? And for us, it's just immersing in the day-to-day life. Like, we very rarely go and, you know, see the big sites and things, because often I find them underwhelming, or they're super busy, or just, like, you know, you're just kind of doing it because you think you should. and you know, and, like, and that can happen a lot with travel. Like, you're, like, almost traveling for, you forget that who you're traveling for, and it's like you're traveling for you and what it's going to give you, and the memories it's going to give you with your kids, and how it's going to make you feel. And if you're just, like, rushing around, like, all frantic, like, that's not the energetic imprint that you want to leave from that experience. So we're very much about just, you know, basing ourselves in a place for, you know, 2 weeks or more.
That's such a good point.
We've been, like, at least 1 month, usually 2 months in each of the countries that we've been to. And it's just so nice to just, like, I feel like you really get under the skin of a place. Like, once you're sitting, like, once you get involved in the day-to-day life of, like, the little neighborhood that you choose to live in, and, like, you get to know a few of the locals, and then, you know, they kind of get to know you, and then they'll tell you about things that maybe, you know, you wouldn't otherwise know about, because they've seen you around, like, a few weeks at a time, and they're like, oh, I'll tell them to go see this thing. And then we have these beautiful, or they invite you to come have dinner with them or tea or whatever. And then you just have these really, beautiful experiences that you wouldn't have had if it was just like a, you know, 2 to 3 day stop to check out a town.
Yeah. I feel like my family travel was always very touristic in nature. And it was always about me and my 3 brothers going to every possible point that you should go to. And I say that, you know, in quotations. And it felt like at the end of the trip, while it was absolutely lovely and great to see all these places, it did feel like you didn't necessarily have a vacation. It just felt more like a trip. And when you got home, you're exhausted and you have amazing photos of places, but maybe only spent like a few minutes there. and then you were off to the next one. And one time, so my grandfather served in the Army, and he was on Omaha Beach during the war. And so it was very important for my dad to bring us there. And it was so fantastic of an experience. And that's like my biggest memory of this trip that we did one summer. And we went to so many other places on this trip, but like that experience that had like a personal connection, it was off the beaten path. It was not where most people go. It just felt very significant. And it's something that I try to keep in mind, because it's so easy to fall into that like tourist trap and go to, when you go to Rome, you go see all the things in Rome, and you're not necessarily, exploring the local neighborhood that your rental's in, for example. So it sounds like the way that you're doing it definitely is a little more kid friendly, but also friendly for yourself, right? Because you want to, like you were saying, have those good feelings as well after that.
And it's also a lot cheaper as well. Which is a bonus. Like if you do want to extend your travels, because when you're like going to so many places and like you're paying for all the transport and like tickets to all these sites and all, it adds up really quickly. But when you do it slower and choose to stay in it makes it so much cheaper. And like then you can book like we use booking.com or Airbnb, and if you do like 30 or more day stays, you get like, we've gotten like 40 or 50% off the total, and it works out like, so much less than renting at home in Australia. Where we're staying now in Vietnam, it's like this place we're staying in, I mean, it's not flashy or anything, but it's $18 a night, and we're like in the middle of the old town, and it's beautiful.
How do you find, like in terms of kind of getting off the beaten tracks? I think this is one of the fears that I have around kind of, I've got, again, 2 children with diverse needs, both neurodiverse children, and obviously they do need a lot of kind of stability in terms of access to types of foods and whatever else. So I've got a lot in my head around, is it going to be easier for us to be in towns or cities, or am I going to be able to access food for them that they're going to be able to tolerate and enjoy? Obviously, depending on how remote it is, of course, it's going to get trickier. But like when it comes to kind of going off the beaten track, it feels really scary to me. Like the thought of going to a city sounds horrendous and overwhelming. Little bits for sure, little moments to kind of experience certain places for sure, but not all the time. So I would want to be doing more of the real nature, like out in the real world, seeing the real people, experiencing the real cultures. But then I know that obviously that does come with like, I don't know, transport challenges, or how, like, I don't know, just feeling a bit isolated or not feeling very safe or not knowing what is safe in that country, or I don't know, do you know what I mean? Like the fear for me, and this is just, again, it's a myth thing, is this kind of like, oh my God, it's just going to be so overwhelming. It's been like, I live in Godalming in the middle of the countryside, and it's just like, why am I so scared? Like, that's a countryside place. I mean, that to somebody who maybe comes from India coming to visit the UK would think, oh God, it'd be really nerve-wracking to go and stay out in the countryside. I wouldn't know how to get around or where to go. And it's just like, you just drive, grow up. Like, it's not hard. Grab a train, grab a bus. It's not the end of the world. But like, for some reason, it feels really scary. The thought of going to, say, for example, going to India and trying to do that and live quite rurally, or to explore rurally, it just sounds terrifying to me. And I know it's just a mental block that I've got towards it, but I think a lot of people would, in that sort of like, I'd have to understand so much. Like, how do you understand the way to get around and where to find food and like how to take care of yourself in a random new country again? And I guess the point is that it must just be a trial and error thing to some degree. You're just going to have to figure it out a little bit, do some research. But what's your experience of that? Have you ever been anywhere that has made you suddenly feel a bit out of your depth?
Yeah, I mean, speaking into like your fears and worries, I think maybe it would be about like maybe dipping your toe into like India is a pretty wild place to go. Like first place to choose if you're feeling that way. Like, it's pretty hectic there. Like, I maybe wouldn't choose India, but but then in saying that, like, if you chose a really quiet place in India, like we went to a desert fort, Jaisalmer, which is right out, like almost on the Pakistani border, and we stayed in the fort for 5 weeks. We had a beautiful stay with its own kitchen. So like because the kids did get a bit over Indian food, or they were just like, oh, the spice or whatever, like we could make our own food. It was easy to shop for, fruit and veg and groceries and things. So we like also having our own kitchens and Airbnbs if the kids are feeling a bit like over the food that's available. And again, like you have your own space to kind of like ground in, and we also like to find places where we can walk to like certain things, so that we don't have to worry about transport too much, and you just find your own groove. Like, you know, for example, like thinking about where you live, we were just in Turkey for 2 months. And that would be an awesome stepping stone to start, because Turkey is a beautiful mix of Europe and a beautiful mix of the Middle East. And we rented an Airbnb that was right on this tiny little cove down on the Mediterranean coast. We had our own kitchen. It was in the middle of olive groves. It was a 5-minute walk down this dirt road to the beach. There weren't any restaurants in the town, so we literally just like would go to the corner shop and buy our, you know, bread and fruit and veg and groceries, you know, every couple of days. And we just spent the whole time in nature. And then like the older couple that owned the olive grove, the land that the Airbnb was on, like that had been in their family for 300 years, and they became like my kids' surrogate grandparents, and they would take them for an hour or two each day and like cook with them and play with them or take them on a walk. And it was so beautiful. And there's pockets like that in so many places of the world that we've been to. And I think it is, you know, asking other world schooling families like where they recommend staying longer term. And there's some awesome world schooling Facebook groups that you can join and like ask all those types of questions. But yeah, I think the key is you just got to like ease yourself in and take, you know, a bit of time to like, you know, have that block of time to settle in and just like find a routine and a rhythm. I actually have a conscious family travel course where I talk about creating daily rhythms while you travel to create that nervous system regulation for yourself and your family, and like, you know, still taking care of yourself and your health and things, and, you know, eating good foods, because I mean, you would know yourself with your kids, like eating bad foods or foods they're not used to, it can throw everything off. So
it can, well, they just wouldn't eat them.
So
that's my problem.
And then, you know, their sleep's off, and then all of the things. So there is like all like just little things like that just make it so much easier to do. And to answer the other part of your question, where we have felt a bit off, the one place that we did feel was really hard to travel was Egypt. We spent a month there, and it was just more so we'd come from like, we'd spent 7 months in like Asia and India, and then we land, and they're just so lovely with kids, and they're so helpful. Like they go out of their way. Like if you've got kids, if you're a family, they will go out of their way to help you, and just so friendly, and will play with the kids in restaurants, and just, it's so easy to travel. And then in Egypt, it was just like, we just had to have our guards up the whole time, because they're just very all about the money. You don't know whether they're telling you the truth 99% of the time, and just quite scammy. And we were just like, oh my God, this is so hard and just like making it really hard with the kids. And that was one where we were like, do we just leave? Because it just felt so hard. But then we went to Luxor, and we found, again, a beautiful stay in a little village. We always try and go to the quieter places, like stay away from the touristy areas, because it just makes everything so much harder. We just found a stay in a beautiful little village near the Valley of the Kings, and we stayed there for, I think it was 2 or 3 weeks, and just we had our own kitchen, and we shopped in the local stores and bought fresh flatbread, and we got to know a few of the locals, and it was fine. We found our way. But yeah, that was one place where we just like, oh, I don't know if I can do this.
Can I ask a practical question? Do you each have a suitcase? Like, what are you bringing with you on these travels? Because I just know what it took for me to go from my house in England to visit my in-laws here in Italy. And I feel like it was a lot. So I don't know how you're actually managing what you're carrying with you.
We've got 2 big suitcases. We did consider doing the backpacks, but my kids are still quite young, and they'll carry them for like half an hour and then they'll be over it. So we've got 2 big suitcases, and then 2 small carry-on suitcases. And then my husband has a backpack that we sometimes take out on day trips. And yeah, we fit everything in there. And the kids love wheeling the suitcases through the airports, which makes it super easy. And we haven't like struggled. I mean, like I know we didn't bring a pram with us because it's just a nightmare wheeling prams through Asia and things. Like there's no footpaths, there's potholes, all of the things. And we haven't really had that much of a problem like having the suitcases. It's just, you know, a lot of the places that we stay, there's sometimes stairs, so we just get our workout on and cart them up the stairs. But other than that, it's been good. And we've been traveling for 9 months now and just living out of that much. We have bought like a few artifacts and things along the way that we've kind of sent a package home.
Okay.
So we carry that, but we don't do too much shopping or anything. We're just trying to, again, keep it super basic and on budget.
Yeah.
So I was literally saying this to my husband the other day, actually, around kind of the types of things you'd end up carrying with you. Such as like, realistically, if you're traveling, you need your clothes, probably need a laptop, like the ability to, obviously, if you're working remotely on a computer, you're going to need a computer, maybe kind of a Wi-Fi dongle or something like that, toiletries, but then you can obviously pick more up as you go along. Like, realistically, in order to survive, you don't need an awful lot of things. You just need obviously somewhere to be, access to water, you know what I mean, all the things, but you don't need to take a lot with you. It's more just a case of, you just need to have your clothes, you wash them, you pick up fresh toiletries when you need them. And I was like, and in terms of like, I think sometimes people worry about kind of actual the education side of it, so kind of maybe bringing it around to that as well is kind of a good segue onto that, is kind of the concept of like, I don't know, people obviously think, books and stuff and like resources to make stuff or build stuff or crafts, whatever. And it's just like, I guess the reality is that if you don't need a sandpit because you've got a beach, you don't need a water tray because you have access to rivers and lakes and streams and whatever else. You don't need crafting materials because they're playing with leaves and sticks and random stuff that they're like playing with on whatever beach you're on right now, or like whatever the case may be. Like there's, or you can get access to things temporarily for a few things you want to make just to have some fun at a museum you go to, or some playing with other kids, whatever, in that region. But I guess the reality is that actually stuff wise, you must not need to really have much with you. And I say, like, I love the idea of like, if you collect something or if you do something that you want to keep, you just send it home and enjoy it later. That's a great idea, I think, just so you don't carry it all with you. But yeah, I'm assuming that's the case. Is there anything else that you would add to that list of things that you would have as essentials that you have to have with you that is just a good idea to have with you?
I mean, we do, like, we've got like a little holistic health kit because we kind of more lean towards like natural remedies and stuff. Like that's the only other thing, because sometimes it can be hard, like with language differences, to find like, you know, activated charcoal or colloidal silver or castor oil and things like that. So we do carry a few key things like that. But really, like, the more we travel, you know, we realize how like we're traveling with too much at the moment. Like we could travel with so less. And I'm excited to, like, you know, eventually minimize it down even more. And like in regards to like the kids stuff, I mean, I kind of said to you when you invited me onto this podcast, like, we're very radical, you know, unschoolers. Our kids just learn through living, and we just honestly, like, they just love art. So we just pick up like, we just got this the other day in Thailand, like a plain page book, and they will just draw pictures. Like my son at the moment is like drawing pictures of all the Vietnamese food, like the banh mi and the phos and everything. He's like, I'm going to create a colouring book of Vietnamese food. So that's what he's drawing at the moment. And you know, then we just pick up coloured pencils, and then we have Lego. That's one toy we didn't start out travelling with, and then my kids were just like, Lego. We want Lego. So we ended up buying some, and we do travel with that. And honestly, it keeps them like entertained for hours, like just the classic ones where they create their own shapes and things, little vehicles and stuff. They love that. And then every now and then we might grab an activity book that's like a, you know, math or spelling or reading one if we see it. And like they sometimes ask to do that, but like we never like, okay, it's activity book time or anything like that. They just learn through living life. And like you saying how they just pick up things to play with, we would literally just walk down this street an hour ago where there's all these like buttons and zips, and like it's like a haberdashery street or whatever, and like they were like walking along the street and they're like picking up all these buttons and pins and all these things, and they like came over like, Mom, look what we got to play with. And they were like sitting here like, I don't know what they were doing with it, but like they just do that everywhere we go, and they will just have like pockets of all these random, or like people will give them little toys and stuff on the street, or, you know, they just so, and like in India, when we were in that fort, it was a kite festival, and like all the kids there are really into the flying kites, and they have like the glass string where they like cut each other's kites out of the sky and stuff. And so my kids were like kite central, and because they cut them all out of the sky, they're all like floating down on the streets and stuff. And so my kids would pick up the kites and we'd tie new kite string on it, and then the Indian kids were teaching them how to fly them, and like then they became obsessed with kites, and like all the drawings were about kites and everything. So it's just like wherever we go, they're just like soaking up the little pieces that they're interested in and like learning about that, because that's what excites them. And it's just so cool to watch them just be completely in the moment like that and just find awe in like everyday life.
Yeah, it sounds so idyllic, doesn't it? Like I think that's the thing. I find myself listening to you being like, oh, it just sounds amazing. Like I just think that'd be just so awesome for them to just have these spontaneous, like I keep referring to kind of spontaneous curiosity at the minute, that I think I know that I need constant inspiration in my life. I need things that interest me, and my children and home educating have really super helped me to reawaken that curiosity and to get excited about learning new things again, and actually taking the time to just enjoy learning about stuff like for the sake of it. And we say all the time that actually a lot of the learning that we do as children, we think that it's so important for them to sit and focus and learn all these specific things to have these careers or whatever later and to be productive or whatever in their world. But actually I think the truth of the matter is that a lot of the learning that we have, that we should be doing and that we actually get benefit from, is the ability to simply actively have a curious nature. Because I think so much of that curiosity, like when you're just being told what you're learning about now, and this is just what the curriculum says, and no, we can't answer that question right now because we're focused on this, and stop distracting the teacher because we need to get on with this, we need to get it done. It kills curiosity. I'm sorry, but it just does. And it stops children from having that spontaneity. And actually, if they're able to follow the threads of curiosity around subjects that they're interested in, like my 5-year-old, great example, sat having dinner on our deck the other day, looking up at the clouds going, that cloud's super fast. And I was like, is it closer to us or further away than the other clouds? And she's like, closer to us. And I was like, oh, that's interesting. I said, why do you think it's going faster? And she was like, maybe it just seems like it's going faster because it's closer. And I was just like, probably, yes. And it got into like conversations about air pressure and the wind and how it's really windy today. And so lower clouds are probably being affected by that wind, whereas the higher clouds might have a different like air movement, etc., etc. Like 5 years old, and like is contemplating that level of scientific understanding. I think my son, about the same age, was having a conversation with an ex-747 pilot at a museum near us, and the guy was giving him scenarios. He was just having a bit of fun initially, just giving him a scenario of what's happening with the plane and what's going to happen, and he was literally answering his questions every time with the correct answer. And the guy spent 45 minutes with him in the end, just having a great chat with him, and got to the end, like shook his hand and went, "You're going to make a fantastic pilot one day." My son turned around and went, "No, I think I want to be a farmer." And the guy was mortified. He was just like, "What? You would make an amazing pilot. You've like got a complete understanding of how planes work and like what would happen. Like you are just so switched on." And he was like, he looked horrified. He's just like, "Okay, I'm going to go get coffee." Genuinely disappointed right now.
But how cool is it that our kids get to teach us that though? Like learning about things just because we're interested in it and we're curious in it, not because it has to lead somewhere, the pressure of it leading somewhere. And also like, you know, when you think about, like you were saying, back to school, like, and all the things that you were forced to learn and that was really important and you had to do this for a test, I don't remember hardly any of it because I didn't care about it. I was just doing it to regurgitate it. And it's like, what was the point of spending all that time to know that I can regurgitate? Like, what, like, I look around, like, when I say we're unschoolers, I mean myself and my husband are unschooling. My kids don't need to be unschooled because they've never been to school, because they just like, just watching them be curious in life. Like we were eating rice paper rolls and my son's like, how do they make rice paper out of rice? And I'm like, why have I never thought to ask that? It's like I was told to just shut my brain down and just be like, it is what it is. You don't ask questions.
Yes.
And you don't try and understand. You just got to wait for someone to tell you what's important or what you need to know. And it's like just seeing their brains work in that completely different way. It's like feels so like almost like, you know, you're learning again and you're seeing the world through new eyes and you're again. It's
I think what makes me frustrated with that, though, in the world that we live in, is that we don't value it as highly. Like, people are so wary of unschooling, and especially kind of real radical unschooling, where you really do just allow them to get to everything on their own normally. And they're really, really wary of it. And I think what's really annoying about that is that they don't see that regurgitated, like, lack of curiosity leads to a lack of innovation. Like, we are living in a chronic situation right now. This planet has got so many major problems created by human beings who have been schooled, frankly, and we really seriously need that, like, complete overhaul, like outside the box thinking, that curiosity, that noticing, that asking questions, that just like noticing something like that, wondering about it, thinking, how has somebody created the thing that makes that? Like, how did they even invent that? Where did that even come from? Why did they need it in the first place? Like, all of these questions, like I was explaining to my son briefly recently about how you have these moments sometimes where you realize that someone invented a solution to a problem, but by doing that, they created another problem. They didn't realize that at the time, but they did. And therefore, somebody else had to invent a solution to that. So people invented smartphones because we thought that we'd be great to have access to a computer in our hands, we could get so much information instantly, but it's created a massive deficit in concentration. People get distracted, they waste loads of time, whatever. It's actually ruining our sleep. It's doing all the things. So someone develops blue light filters and blue light glasses. They develop like apps that can turn your phone back into a brick so that you can't use it very often. They invent boxes so you can put it in so that you can put a password on it that you don't know, and somebody else has got to get out for you later. Like, oh my goodness. Like, we literally just are constantly creating solutions that turn out to be problems. And we have completely forgotten, in the space of like a few hundred years, our entire human roots. Like, we seem to have completely forgotten that we are literally an animal on this planet. We need things to survive, and if we don't take care of those things, then we will not survive. Like, I don't really understand how we're getting into this situation, but actually what we need are more children who are living in the world, seeing as much of it as possible, knowing about what there is to be going on, like what is the actual issue here, what is really happening, what solutions have people come up with that have turned into problems, and how can we maybe take some stuff back a step? How do we revert some of it? How do we fix it, put it back to how it should be? And I think these kids are going to have like all of these moments where they're experiencing stuff and trying stuff and just doing it because they want to, means that when they are facing big adult problems, whereas I'm sat here going, oh, but how do you even get around? Oh, I don't even know the first thing about doing that. I don't even know what the visas would be. I don't know where it's going to be legal for me to work. I don't know all this. Oh, it's too much effort. I can't be bothered to think through it all. I'm just going to get stuck in this life. I'm going to be sitting here at 80 years old being like, oh, wish I'd just done it. I'm so mad at myself for not doing it. But back then I was too scared and it was too hard because I didn't know how to be curious and simply just go find the information. But the information is there. We can ask the questions, we can do the research, we can make it happen. I think what's really beautiful about what Home Ed has done for me is it has reminded me that I can, that as much as it scares me, and my husband's forever like, oh God, we're back on another midlife crisis conversation again. Like he's very much the routines, stay in your rut, do your thing, kind of like, I'll just get up, I'll just go to work, I'll just make money, I'll come home and make dinner. Like, it's fine, we just do the things. I think he's autistic, but he in himself is just very much like, I need my routine, my day just goes how it goes, I don't really need to deviate from it, and the rest of us are so like, nope, boring, and it drives him absolutely nuts. So I think that there's definitely that kind of like, I can understand how some people can look at this and think, you guys are crazy, like just settle down, just stay in one place, get on with your life, be responsible. But actually he is slowly coming around to the idea that actually he's not happy, not truly, that he's bored, that we all get restless, that actually he's working really hard to make the money for us to live the freedom and the lifestyle. I mean, I was talking about going to Chiapas next year, the Worldschooling hub that's there. It's like for 2 months, and you go and join a group of 10 unschooling families and you just have a really great time. Oh. And it sounds like to me a sort of softer way to land into a slightly chaotic kind of thing, but to have a structure that someone else has kind of planned some fun day trips and some evening community things, and you've got other people that you can talk to, then you just feel a little bit safer. And so we can do the kind of slightly riskier place, but with someone who knows what they're doing. They've lived there for many, many years, so they really know the area well. And it just makes me feel a bit more relaxed. And so it's like, okay, that sounds great. And he's like, I can't take 2 solid months off work though. And I was like, well, no, but I could go with the kids. And he's like, without me? And I was just like, then you've got to figure something out, haven't you? Like, what do you want from me? So kind of compromise, he might come for a month and then I'll stay on for the second month and he'll go home or whatever it might be. But like, I think that we'll experience a couple of things like that and he'll start to be like, okay, let's figure out how we're doing this and let's go. But I think you were saying before we got on the call, and I obviously want to give you a chance to talk to people about it because it's such a fantastic tool, I think, is your family-centered freedom plans. This kind of, you've obviously been working on something that helps people to start to think about this, because he doesn't want to be stuck, I don't think, really. I mean, he kind of does, he kind of doesn't. Like, to have that really stable income, to have a house, to have the money there for you, to take care of you when you're old and like don't want to leave the house anyway. I honestly don't even know why you'd save money for that part of your life at all. It's going to be boring anyway. Let's just let it get on with it. But ultimately, I want to live my life now. Like, we're healthy, we're young, we should be doing it. We should be out there having a great time, really making the most of this wonderful life we've been given. So I think he wants to do it, but I know he's scared. And obviously, I think a lot of families would be coming into this kind of conversation thinking, yeah, but how on earth are we going to make enough money to get on with it? How are we going to create that lifestyle? So I'd love to give you a chance to actually talk to people about that now, because it's really, really important. It's a really vital conversation.
Yeah, well, I mean, since I've been sharing our travels, like the biggest question that I get from people or assumption is like, oh yeah, that's nice for you, but like you obviously have a lot of savings or you have a trust fund or you're like come from money or something. Like, not everyone can do that. And I can't, and I really like, my motivation for sharing our travels and our way of life online is I just want other families to see, like, if they want this lifestyle too, it is totally possible. It's just about thinking outside the box and thinking creatively and realizing like we actually don't need as much as we think we do. And, you know, a lot of the stories or assumptions or things that we think about living certain kinds of lifestyles or traveling and stuff, like a lot of it, you know, isn't true. And like, it's just about diving in and figuring things out along the way, and you know, and like I said, thinking creatively. And my family-centered freedom plan, I created that in response to like all of those questions, and it's just helping. I break down exactly how we've done it, like how we, you know, started off with a couple of income streams that allowed us the location independence, and then how since we've been traveling we've been slowly adding in a few others, and slowly growing them. Like, we're not rich or anything, not what a lot of people consider rich, but like we're wealthy in what matters most to us, and that is being able to, you know, spend time together and have the freedom of choice to do that wherever we want to in the world. And that is the vision that we always had for our family, and it's just so beautiful to now be living it. And I really want that for anyone else who wants it, and not necessarily our version of that. You know, it gets to be your version of that. So whether it's like, you know, you would love to have 3 months a year where you could go, you know, choose a region in the world and be like, let's do those 3 countries and just spend that time together as a family. And the rest of the year, you know, you might work a 9 to 5, but then you've also got, like you were saying, thinking about putting like an Airbnb or like, you know, creating digital products around things that you're passionate about or have knowledge in, or, you know, save other people time, energy and money. Or, you know, there's so, I guess the beauty of, you know, how online everything is now, like you can create an income in so many ways online. And so I go into like over 20 different ways you can, and like where to start with them and my personal experiences with them, and help like families choose like 2 to 3 to start with. And then also just like a vision of like what they want their family life to look like. You know, maybe it is just cutting back on a couple of days of full-time work week so you can go away for longer weekends, or, you know, having those longer times off together. Or, you know, maybe it is eventually like spending a year overseas traveling and thinking creatively about like, okay, how can we live on less? And do we actually really need everything that we have around us, or are we just living in other people's expectations of us or society's expectations of what we should have? Like, is this actually making us happy? Is this the life we want? Are we just a slave to like the expectations of what our family and friends think we should have at this point or what our family and friends have, so we think we should have the same? And coming back to like, what do you actually want to live like? What do you want to do with your life? Because this, and again, like our kids are young for such a short period of time. Like, why are we sending them off to spend most of their time with strangers? Like, they only need us this much for such a short period of time. Like, why not just make some sacrifices and, you know, spend as much time with them while you can?
Yeah, I think about that a lot, actually, that ultimately when they're grown and they've flown the nest, they go off living their exciting, amazing lives that I hope they go off to lead, that you find yourself thinking, well, I'll have loads of time then. And so having a business and traveling, like if we wanted to carry on traveling, even like if they want to go off and do their own adventures now, or they want to settle down somewhere and start doing something, if we wanted to carry on traveling then, I'd have so much time. Like it'd be easy to make loads of extra cash. When I work part-time now, with my sort of virtual assistant business, and that makes me my income, and then I do all various other things like this as a passion thing, which is obviously starting to make progress and come along now anyway. But it's ultimately like there are so many different ways to make money in this world now, and that's part of this kind of open-minded curiosity too, right? That kind of like having ideas, recognizing that you could start something new, that you just have to have some faith in yourself that you could do it. That it might be hard, yes, it'd be a bit tricky, you're gonna have to learn about some new stuff, but you can learn. Like we want to teach our kids that they can learn at any time in their life, so why can't we start recognizing that we can do the same? And that it is hard, and sometimes that does seem like a massive block, but it is possible with the right motivation. And I think that so many of us are reaching the point now, especially since COVID and the way the cost of living has gone up so drastically, that ultimately we're now living like where we were comfortable and had probably about £1,500 a month spare to pay for like home ed and days out and to be able to eat out the pub once in a blue moon. Now we have nothing. Like it's literally nothing in the space of 2 or 3 years. And so it's literally gone from being easeful to hard, with nothing else, like with less, like way less experience. So like we do much less now. And it's such a shame. And I think it's causing a lot of families to sit there and go, why are we working crazy hours, like with our kids in school or even home educating? Like you're working a lot of hours to pay for a house that's filled with stuff that keeps breaking and needing replacing, that keeps needing to be decorated, which keeps needing new bits done to the roof, or something fixed on the boiler, or the car needs a new tire, and now this needs new this. And I never have any spare cash for joy. It is all fixing problems with the stuff that I own. And I'm so over it. I really am. And I think a lot of people are. It feels so, it's like a massive anchor hanging on your literal neck that you can't stop working and you can't stop fighting for it all, because this is what, like, you need to survive and your family needs a roof over its head. And this is all the messaging that we get. And it's like, well, of course they need to be safe and fed and watered, but they don't necessarily need one set roof for it to be okay. And they certainly don't need one set environment, and they certainly don't need all of the resources to have a good education, and they certainly don't need like all these things. Like you don't need all these things. You can choose them if they work for you and they're good for your family and they help you or whatever, but they're not essential. And I think we have to start remembering that there are only a few things that human beings need that are essential, and the rest of it is just what we're told to want. And if we don't really want it, then we're fools to keep chasing it, because it's not ours to, like, why do we want it? We don't want it, so why are we asking for it? Why are we fighting for it? It's like, it's okay to be risky, it's okay to take a step in another direction. I mean, I mentioned to my dad about going Worldschooling and doing up a caravan or a bus or something, and there was a moment in his life where he had no choice but to live in a caravan, that was a static caravan in a place that was in the UK, so in the winter it was very cold, and for him, in his head, that was not a good time in his life, because he was working really hard. He was going home on his own to a caravan that was cold and empty, and it was a miserable existence for him. And so that for him is what he gets in his head when I say about kind of like traveling on the road. And so he's really negative about it. And I have to really be mindful that my upbringing, I've had him telling me that story. I've had him bring it up a number of times. I've had him reinforce to me how important it is to have my own home and to have a stable place to be that's warm and whatever else, to have a good job so I've got plenty of money in the bank. Like, I've had him, with the experiences he's had, emphasizing to me the importance of the experiences that I have as an adult. And it's up to me to recognize that his limiting beliefs based around his experiences and the experiences that people like gave to him, like, so all of the influences he had, are not mine to carry. If I can see another way that I know is safe and suitable for our family, that is not going to leave us miserable, then I should definitely try it. And I think that ultimately for us, dipping our toes in, trying a couple of longer trips, getting the house ready to rent or whatever we need to do with it, getting to that point over the next few years is 100% the way we should be doing it, to just reassure ourselves that the kids will be okay, it won't be too dysregulating, that we can find a good solid way of getting another income for my husband to have so that we can top up mine. But ultimately, it is doable. It just takes a little bit of creativity and thought. And ultimately, if it matters to us, you have got to do it, because there's no point sitting there with a dream in your head, wishing you could, and never really fighting for it. I think that's such a shame. And I think so many of us will sit there thinking, well, it still feels too impossible. And maybe in your situation, it's going to feel too hard for a long time, but it doesn't mean it's never going to happen. Like, still take some steps, I guess, that's what your kind of plan is about, isn't it? Kind of helping people to build those, like 6 months from now, a year from now, 2 years from now, like what can you start to do and start to work towards that will get you into the right position at the right time to go and do whatever you want to do. And I think that's what I really loved about what you're explaining to us. It was is kind of that opportunity for people to really think about it, break it down, and to start to actually put some plans in place and have an actual goal and understanding, so that it doesn't feel so scary. It doesn't feel so kind of like wishy-washy.
Yeah, because I think the time's going to pass anyway. Like, the last thing you want to do is get, a year from now and be like, oh, I just wish I had started. Or like, 3 years from now, 5 years from now. Like, why not give it a go? Like, why not spend an hour or 2 hours a day, like, working towards creating the life that you want? Like, we do, a lot of us do have school trauma, and we've been so conditioned to not think about the life that we want to live. We just go along the path that we're told to take because, that's what you're supposed to do to be a functioning member of society. And it's like, it is really hard to think differently and feel safe in that, because it does, for a lot of us, it doesn't feel safe in our bodies to think differently and choose differently, because they're like, what if I'm rejected by my family and friends because I choose differently? What if they think I'm judging them? And that's like a primal thing, because we're so conditioned to be part of a tribe and to be accepted is to survive. So when you're choosing, it can feel so and I just want to honor that and be like, it is going to feel like a big journey for some people, and that's totally normal and totally okay. But the more you do, just take those little steps and you're like, okay, I did it. Like, I'm okay. Like, I'm learning a new thing, or I'm trying this new thing, or I'm considering different options for us. The more then you feel safer in that, and then you expand a little bit more and you expand a little bit more, and it's just taking those baby steps, and then you look back and you've taken this big quantum leap and you're like, wow. 6 months ago I was like, no, that definitely couldn't be for us, and now here I am, and we're starting to look at options, and we've started this or whatever it is. So I help people create that 6 month to 5 year plan, and also talk about that deconditioning from allowing yourself to dream again, and allowing to to remember who you're living your life for, because it's not for everyone around you. It's not for what your parents expect of you or what your friends want you to do. It's for you. Like, you don't want to get to the end of your life, like you said, and be like, man, I wish I had had the courage to live the life that I wanted to. I wish I had spent more time with the people that mattered the most. Like, you get to choose, like, today, like, what you want to do. And it's just having that little bit of courage to take that first few steps.
I agree. I think it's just so vital, isn't it? And I think it's such a big part of mindset work is starting to recognize what your dreams are and what you want to do next, and giving it permission to be there in your head, because I think so many of us do feel very wrong for that. And I think one last thing to touch on the whole, like, feeling unsafe and in the journey when you feel like everyone's going to abandon you and you're going to be so different, is to remember that there are loads of people out there. And I guess I hope that just chatting to you today, Luna, like I really feel very connected to everything you said.
Yeah.
And ultimately that means that me and you are truly part of the same tribe. We're part of the same group of people who think the same things, feel the same things. So there is safety in that. There is knowledge that there are lots of us out there who care about this and actually do believe in it, think it's brilliant. And so, some of the people in your life who've had the experiences and influences they've had, who have got their limiting beliefs, will think it's nuts, will try and talk you out of it. I mean, when I first started home educating, so many people were like, are you sure you haven't just had some sort of stroke or something? What are you talking about? Especially as my son was quite high needs, and they were like, you I don't know if you're going to cope. Like, this is going to be really hard for you. And actually, it's been wonderful. And as you say, that whole like quantum leap thing, I look back on me making the choice to home educate 4 years ago, looking back on it now, being like, wow, look at you. Like, you made the choice. You were scared out of your mind. And look at you now. You're so relaxed. Like, you're so in your flow. Your kids are doing so well. And you're now making the next major quantum leap. Like, you're now looking at what the next big leap for your family is going to be.
And also, like, what an inspiration are you to your people, you know, your people in your sphere of influence, like your family and friends, that they saw you starting this thing that they maybe doubted you doing and thought you were crazy for doing. And now look where you are now, and look how beautiful your life is, and look where it's leading. And you get to be their permission slip now. Like, you get to show people there is another way. And that is like, you're changing lives by choosing to live your life for yourself. You know, then it shows other people around you in your, like I said, your small circle of influence, that, oh, well, if she can do it, like, I know her, like, maybe I can do it too. Like, I don't like my life. I don't like how much we work. I want to spend more time with my kids. She's done it. I've seen her, you know, take those steps, and then they're inspired by it. And then, because I mean, that's all we have to do. And also, like you said as well, you know, you may not feel like you have people around you in your immediate community that would support you or think like you do, and you might feel like you're going to be really alienated. But I've also seen that when you do start making those choices, people come out of the woodwork and be like, I've always thought about doing that. But I've never spoken about it because I, you know, thought people would judge me. And you actually might find people in your immediate community that do actually think like you, but they've been hiding it because you've been hiding it, you know. And then also in our online space, like, again, when I first became a parent, none of my friends had kids or anything, and we made some different choices in regards to our parenting. I felt really isolated and alone, and I made some beautiful friendships online. I've made some of my best friends through connecting with people like this online that I've then met up with in person, you know, as we've traveled and things. And it's beautiful. Like, that is another incredible gift that we have about this online space as well.
Yeah. No, I think that sounds amazing. So I want to wrap this up by asking you the obvious question, which is, have you got a place that you've been that is a favorite? If you're going to tell someone to go start traveling that's been just incredible, I mean, you did mention some places that you liked, but like, have you got a real favorite, a real place that you would love to just go back to one day, or you think people should go to?
I could go back everywhere, but the two places that we've been to recently that I'm like, I will definitely go back there is Sri Lanka is so beautiful. Like, particularly you talking about India. If you like the idea of India, but India is just like, whoa, it's like, it's full on place to travel with kids, go to Sri Lanka. Like, it's this beautiful little island at the bottom of India. It's kind of got, if people are familiar with Bali, like, it's like Bali was 20 years ago. The people are so lovely. It's so easy to travel around. Like, we rented a tuk-tuk and traveled around Sri Lanka with our kids. Like, it was the best. And, like, you know, it's not too developed. Like, food's super easy. It's super cheap. It's just got everything. Like, you just drive along the road, there's just waterfalls and monkeys and elephants, and like, it's incredible. So I'd say there would be a really easy place for people to start. But we also, just went to Turkey, and I was just in awe of how beautiful Turkey is. I mean, we only spent time on the Mediterranean coast, but like, having been to Europe on the Mediterranean coast and how busy and built up, and, you know, it is a bit more expensive to travel Europe, like, go to Turkey. And the people there are so lovely. Like, they were just giving us, you know, oranges and mulberries and like lettuces from their garden. They just saw us walking along the road, and they're like telling us to come in and giving our kids all this produce from their garden. And yeah, like I said, the couple were our surrogate grandparents, and like, yeah, it was amazing. So Turkey
Sounds
and Sri
idyllic.
Lanka. Yeah.
Very cool.
Incredible. Thank you so much, Luna. And I really appreciate you coming on and chatting to us today. And good luck with the rest of your travels. Do keep us posted. Tell us what you're up to, because I'll definitely be following what you're doing from now on and keeping in touch. But thank you so much. It's been really, really eye-opening, really inspirational, and has definitely made me feel excited anyway. It's made me feel like this is genuinely real, that this can really happen. So that's a big gift to me. So thank you very much.
It's been beautiful chatting.
Thank you.
Good luck. Take care.
All right. See you later.
You've been listening to the Big Home Ed Conversations podcast. Thanks for tuning in. Don't forget to subscribe, leave a review, and share with a friend. Follow us on Instagram and TikTok at Big Home Ed Podcast for updates. And we can't wait to see you next time, where we talk about how we are using AI in our daily lives and in our home ed. Until next time, take care.